I've never seen such a man. In order to give his new wife a home, he spent all his savings to buy a 100-year-old abandoned cargo ship and transformed it into a cozy home on the sea. Today is the first day that Mr. and Mrs. de Jong bought the freighter. This ship was built in 1910. The ship is 68 meters long and 12 meters wide. At first, it could only be moved by horsepower. As times changed, in 1940 other means of transportation became available and the ship was abandoned. The ship is not only rusty, but the inside has become a dumping ground. But the couple loved it for its history. But the first order of business was to clean out the cabin before proceeding with the restoration. Mr. and Mrs. de Jong decided to pump out the water in the cabin first. Then they could clean up the fallen iron sheets and all kinds of human-made debris. After emptying the cabin, they used high-pressure water guns to wash it down. This process took the couple half a month. Considering that the boat had lost its original engine and tires, Mr. and Mrs. Chuang needed to check if it could move properly, so they added an outboard engine to the stern. After half an hour of starting, the boat began to move slowly. It took them all the way to a new anchorage. It was far enough away from the crowds that Mr. and Mrs. de didn't have to worry about disturbing people. The next morning, they cleaned the surface of the boat with water guns. Old dirt and moss were gradually removed. Just looking at it is very healing. In order not to be affected by the weather, Nala found waterproof sheets to cover the skylight temporarily. Of course, we have to leave the actual operation to de Jong. After all, it's not a small job. Then all the aluminum window frames will be removed. After all, we'll have to replace them with brand new windows, in order to solve the rust problem as soon as possible. After he's finished removing the windows, he and his wife worked together to remove the rust from the hull. Nara did the basic shoveling. She vacuumed the hull while shoveling, and de Jong was in charge of sanding. Nara finished some of the work first and then went to the top of the boat to polish the rust. On this journey of remodeling, Nala was full of excitement about her new home. She was even more efficient than her husband. Even Nala's mother was called in to help. She carefully applied the rust-proof paint with a brush. She didn't look any more skillful than any painter. The main thing was to save a little on the budget. The time for small talk was soon over, because they're busy painting the whole ship. The exposed parts are easy to handle, but the underwater hull can only be taken through the harbor to a professional shipyard. As the crew make adjustments, the ship enters the dock. The gates are tightened and the water curtains closed. The water inside will be drained until the full hull is revealed. Nara reaches the bottom of the ship by way of the stairs. There was a small fish wrapped in the water and grass. Nala sees that it's too small. Kindly let it go back to the water to find its mother. Now it's time to clean the bottom of the boat with a water pistol. The husband and wife work in shifts. After all, it takes a lot of time. After that, the mother-in-law paints the bottom with waterproof and rust-proof paint. Of course, the family must be neat and tidy everywhere. De Jong is also immersed in his work. Since he married his wife, he's only felt the family atmosphere pass on. Some of the damaged parts need to be repaired by professional masters. The rest of the work they can do themselves, after completing the basic exterior remodeling. The next day the couple's customized windows for the boat arrived just in time. In order to save the installation cost, de Jong decided to do it himself. He removed the temporary windshield. Then he and his brother carefully stuck the windows in place. Before installing each window, a thick layer of glass glue is applied. Once the windows are in place, he taps the edges with a hammer to make them fit perfectly. Then the wife will continue to paint the gaps. It's a thankless job, but one that requires patience. After all, this is a big ship that's going to sail on the sea. Early the next morning, Mr. and Mrs. de Jong heard that there was some discarded wood to be picked up. They woke up early and rushed to the site. De Jong assembled the workbench. Then he took out his cutting machine and cut off the damaged parts of the wood. Only the intact logs can be brought home, although the inside of the boat is still empty. But the couple is confident that in a short time, they'll be able to live in this magnificent new home.